What's up, heathens? How ya doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and normally I critically analyze apologists' claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. But today we're going to be talking about something a little different. We're going to be talking about this shit.
As I mentioned, we are not prepared to give that number.
The Biden crime family stealing the election. The media is covering up. The Biden crime family stealing this election. The media is covering it up. The Biden crime family stealing this election. The media is covering up. We want our freedom for the world. Give us our freedom, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is covering up this election. He's stealing it.
Where were we? What was the last question?
I have to love barbecue, beer, and freedom guy. For one thing, Biden's not going to remove our freedoms. He's not going to prevent us from having the freedoms that we've had. I don't know why he thinks that Trump will bring freedom to the world. I mean, most of the world's already free already. So I don't know why Donald Trump is all of a sudden the linchpin in worldwide freedom. But we're not only going to be talking about this one crazy conspiracy theory, namely the Biden crime family kind of conspiracy theory, but we're going to be taking a look at a few conspiracy theories today surrounding the election and why they're wrong. So if you want to know why these conspiracies are completely and utterly ridiculous, then please stay tuned. Alright, so first off, it seems like the Republicans this year have concluded that it should have been a complete and total landslide election for Donald Trump.
I just have a strong sense that Donald Trump is not just gonna win the election. And he's not just gonna win in a landslide, but he's gonna win in a mega landslide.
Let me explain what's going to be happening here shortly after Trump destroys Joe Biden on November 3rd. Our analysts over at Global Financial Wealth Network predict a 40-state romping crush by the Trump campaign over Joe Biden.
Donald Trump is going to win in 2020 by an absolute landslide. This nonsense is worse than a witch hunt. It's a constitutional massacre. We are sick and tired of leftist propaganda. You can't just make up stuff because you don't like somebody.
It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be great. We're going to take back we're going to keep the White House. We're going to take back the House, not with a bunch of swamp dwellers, but with MAGA candidates. We're going to have a MAGA majority in the House in 2021. We're going to have a MAGA majority in the Senate in 2021. We're going to have Donald Trump in the White House.
This landslide is going to be so devastating to the left. We're going to be calling the election before California has even finished voting. It'll be over. They're going to be like, Trump won every swing state on the East Coast, plus New York, which we weren't expecting, Maine and New Hampshire. We never say anything like this. And we know that the Central Time Zone's not done voting, but Trump is already over 300 electoral votes. And Californians, you can stay home if you want, because he's not, Biden can't beat him. Let me repeat. Joe Biden cannot beat Donald J. Trump. They cannot stop the Trump train. It's over. Kiss it goodbye.
This projected result from professional baseball player Aubrey Huff really does embody how much of a landslide the Republicans expected Donald Trump to win. So it's no surprise that on November 4th, some crazy dude went crazy in his barbecue, beer, and freedom shirt to declare that the Biden crime family was stealing the election. The nearest I can tell, this whole Biden crime family comes from the idea that Hunter Biden engaged in some dubious business practices. For one, they claim that Hunter Biden's company, or a company that he was on the board of or something like that, received millions of dollars from the mayor of Moscow's wife. The fact is that this has been thoroughly debunked many times over. The company that Hunter Biden was associated with did not receive the millions of dollars that they claim. It was a similarly named company, and there's no real clear indication of the ties between the two companies. Donald Trump has weaponized this and called them a crime family. He's done this with his other opponents, most notably the Clintons. He's called them a crime family too. But this perceived landslide has caused a bunch of people to essentially go crazy. Like these crazy people who decided to cast some kind of crazy spell on the Arizona election department. I mean, honestly, I think it's crazy to have 3 level 69 Christian mages out there casting these spells on the election department. It's not going to change anything. This shit's not real. You can't cast a spell on them and make them automatically count Biden votes for Trump. The fact that Trump did not win in a landslide also brought this one pastor to his knees, crying and sobbing, begging God to let Trump win.
Father, we praise you tonight. We humble ourselves tonight, Lord God. We ask you in Jesus' name, Father, that you'd forgive us as a people. Almighty God, please. God, you are pro-life.
Now, I gotta stop you right there. For one thing, get up, dude. Come on. I don't know why you gotta get down on your knees crying because Trump didn't win. Plenty of Republicans haven't won their presidential bid in the past. Just because he's incumbent this time and he got beat out by Biden doesn't mean that you should get down on your knees crying to God and then claiming that God is somehow pro-life. Where in the fuck do you get that? Because it's definitely not in the Bible. The biblical God is not pro-life. He's definitely pro-fucking you up if you don't suck his dick correct. And by sucking it correctly, that means don't suck anybody else's dick, but also do these specific things. But I'll get tired of those too, so you might want to do something else that'll please me. Really, just the main thing is, make sure you please my dick. Hell, this entire situation has even gotten Laura Loomer to call for the boycott of Fox News. According to Laura here, Fox News has become part of the leftist propaganda. She says, "We cannot allow for the legacy of Roger Ailes to be turned into another left-wing propaganda outlet for the communists who are allowing for our elections to be stolen. Fox News proved to us that they can't be trusted as fair and balanced when they call Arizona for Biden and when they call the presidency for Joe Biden today. They seem to have no problem with the Democrats openly stealing an election in plain sight." So because Fox News, along with every other media outlet, projected that Biden would take the presidency, apparently they're a leftist propaganda outlet. Of course, these aren't the only crazy things that have happened during this election. Now, another crazy conspiracy theory that's popped up around this election season because of this perceived Republican landslide is the magical ballots that seem to appear in the middle of the night. Just take a look at this interview with a woman from Arizona.
The seal.
Telling me that in the middle of the night, a guy that stays in his basement, that has nobody show up, has absolutely no energy when you have 60,000 people, you have 90-some miles of Trump train, that this guy won?
So
the ballots show up in the middle of the night when everybody's gone to sleep.
You think
and
there's a
magically,
fraud?
definitely, magically, they're enough to push him ahead of Trump.
Do you
Trump
believe
was
Joe
ahead
Biden?
700,000 votes in Pennsylvania in the middle of the night. Biden, and here's the interesting thing, the thing that's really telling is those ballots, they're only filled in for Biden. They're not filled all the way in, and they're all the same, exactly the same. There's
I hear
no
your
way.
point. I hear your point.
No
Absolutely.
way.
Another person has even gone so far as to make a country song.
When I went to sleep, Trump had the lead. How the hell did we go from election day to election week? The posters got it wrong again, they must have been confused. But I tell ya about shit myself when I turn on the morning news. Cause they found ballots full of ballots at 3 a.m. All the way from Georgia to Michigan. They took the caps off of their Sharpies and they filled them fuckers in. All those pallets full of ballots, all for Joe Biden.
These people don't know how mail-in voting works or absentee voting works. You see, here's the thing. This would be a little bit suspicious if Joe Biden hadn't been urging people to do the mail-in voting because it would be safer so that they didn't get COVID or they didn't spread COVID. During this time of pandemic, it's totally reasonable that most of the votes from the Democratic voters would come in via mail-in ballots. Now, for Pennsylvania, like that woman said, they weren't allowed to start counting the votes early. whereas like Florida was able to start counting the votes early. Since Pennsylvania wasn't able to start counting their votes before Election Day, they couldn't open them and start counting them until Election Day. So they had a lot of ballots to process. So it's not that ballots were magically found at 3 a.m. They were always there. But you see, these people don't really understand how the voting process works, at least not in this respect. I'm not claiming to know all the ins and outs of our current voting process or all of the security that goes around it, but I do know that Joe Biden was pushing for his voters to vote by mail-in votes because it's a safe and secure way to vote. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has suggested that mail-in voting is prone to fraud and will ultimately steal this election from him. So he's already primed his audience to expect them to magically find votes in favor of Joe Biden. So no, there weren't any magically found ballots, nor were there pallets of ballots that were found, empty ballots, and then filled in by the poll workers. That just simply didn't happen. Now, the woman in the interview said that these ballots had like only Joe Biden's name filled in. But in any given election season, like back in 2016, it was quite common for people to only vote for one particular thing or another, including the presidency. The question of whether or not you can only vote for the president and nothing else on the ballot is such a well-known thing that, CNN has a questionnaire up on their site that answers that question specifically. So it's not really any kind of surprise that mail-in ballots would only vote for Joe Biden, or that there would be actual people voting on November 3rd that would only vote for the president. But it all goes back to this perceived landslide. See, they cannot cope with the idea that there wasn't a landslide. So obviously, it had to be stolen. Now, to get into some of the crazier conspiracy theories that are just hilarious, we go to the QAnon conspiracy theorist Dave Hayes. He says POTUS knows that if Joe ever occupied the Oval Office, his family would be systematically eradicated. That he chose to play golf on a weekend a traitor was proclaimed emperor should terrify the deep state. This isn't politics. Trump is planning how to keep his family alive. Nobody is planning on eradicating Trump's family. At most, you could say that people have been planning for a while to levy many lawsuits against him and bring him up on criminal charges. Because once he leaves the presidency, then he's just another normal American. He can be sued and he can have charges brought against him. Now, our final conspiracy theory today comes from somebody named Dr. Charlie Ward. I don't know if he's actually a doctor. I haven't been able to verify his credentials, but he seems to be a British guy living in Spain, but yet he seems to think he knows more about our election process than we do.
Hi, guys. Just to let you know, I've been given consent this morning to tell you something that I've had to keep very, very quiet because I signed an NDA about this, and I can confirm 100% that the blockchain technology was used for the voting on this election alongside the conventional voting system. And Donald Trump won by a complete landslide. I mean, the figures are off the scale. He has all of the hard evidence. This was a sting operation rather than a vote. But I can now tell you that the QFS, the quantum financial system, was actually used, the quantum voting system was actually used for this election. So we actually know the true result, and we know the ones that the Democrats tried to twist. So for those people that doubted it, we now have hard evidence. And over the next few days, there will be a number of arrests and a number of indictments and a lot of things that are happening. But I can tell you 100% that the QFS, quantum financial system, was actually used for this election alongside the old system. So brilliant news, and Donald Trump won by a landslide.
Now, I'm not sure why it matters to him, but regardless of that point, if you're sitting there thinking, what the fuck is a quantum financial system blockchain technology? Well, this is a real thing, but it's nothing that's been implemented. Earlier this year, in February, the U.S. Postal Service patented this whole system for using blockchain for voting. You may be wondering, well, how do we know we didn't use this? How do we know that the votes were not tracked with this? Well, via the patent that was filed, this is how it's supposed to work. A registered voter receives a computer-readable code in the mail and confirms identity and confirms correct ballot information in an election. The system separates voter identification and votes to ensure vote anonymity and stores votes on a distributed ledger in a blockchain. Nobody got these computer-readable codes. I know, at least in Alabama, we weren't issued any kind of code that we would have to use in order to vote. How we did it here was we had to send in our IDs with a request for an absentee mail-in ballot. We got it. We voted, had witnesses sign that we voted, and then we had to mail it back in one envelope stuck inside another envelope. They double bagged it. So no, this was not used whatsoever. I don't know where he's getting his information from. Because he's a QAnon supporter, he probably saw a Trump or some kind of speech thing, and he noticed 3 L's on the back wall, and therefore that means the blockchain was done. I don't know. QAnon supporters, they're fucking crazy as shit. This entire situation is just fucking nutter butters. So we do have one honorable mention instance of conspiracy theory, which is actually 3 conspiracy theories. It concerns the Four Seasons total landscaping business. Apparently the conspiracy theorists have hit them too, with varying different ideas about what went on with them as far as the election goes. So as you can see from this post, they have gotten one conspiracy that they're a money laundering front for the DNC. Then they got another conspiracy where they apparently burned thousands of Trump ballots at the crematorium. And then finally, apparently, their men inadvertently dug up thousands of Trump voter ballots on a job site and turned them into the Trump campaign as evidence. So, yeah. I didn't feel like it was necessary to address these in any kind of detail other than to put it out there that apparently people are harassing the Four Seasons Total Landscaping Company with these crazy, whacked out conspiracy theories. As of this recording, Donald Trump has levied many lawsuits in various states, but luckily none of them have stuck, primarily because they're all ridiculous and were laughed at court. All of these die-hard Republicans are completely convinced that Donald Trump really won by a landslide, and that the Democrats are trying to cover it up, and that fake ballots were used, and this is going to be the narrative surrounding this election, at least for these die-hard Trump supporters. I would hope that anybody that's still subscribed to me would understand how these kinds of conspiracy theories are ridiculous and should be laughed at, because ballots weren't magically found at 3 a.m. and filled out by the poll workers. Nobody is trying to eradicate Trump's family, and we did not have a completely separate voting system that was used, unbeknownst to everyone, that verifies that Trump won by a landslide. I don't care how many NDAs you sign. Currently, Joe Biden is the president-elect, and Kamala Harris is the vice president-elect. We know this because of basic math. Counting. Until somebody can produce real evidence of fraud being committed in this election, nobody should automatically assume that there was fraud, just because some orange asshole said there was. Thank you, heathens, for joining me today for this look into the conspiracy theories surrounding the election. If you will, please go down below. Let me know what you think about these conspiracy theories. Do you think that some of them are spot on? Or do you think that they're all ridiculous? Let me know down below. And hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like these kinds of videos. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.